Well, having learned what a linear and nonlinear equation is, we now want to quickly dive into what the quadratic equations are, because they follow under nonlinear equations. Now we saw what a nonlinear equation is, and we said a nonlinear equation is an equation whose highest power on the variable in which it is defined is a 2 and beyond. Sometimes it may be a negative, but for that case we do not look into it. We first ensure that all the variables are lying on one straight line, then we examine whether it is nonlinear or linear. For instance, if it is given in the form 1 over x plus maybe 3 is equal to 4, you first remove this x in the denominator, and if we do that, it means we multiply all through by x, so 1 plus 3x is going to be 4x. Now once it is on one line, then you can examine the power on each of the variables. If it is either a 1, if it is a 1 for all the variables, then it is linear. If it is 2 and beyond, then it is non-linear. So we want to see what quadratic equations are. So a quadratic equation, this is an equation, a quadratic equation. This is an equation in which the highest power on the variable in the equation is a 2. So if you get any equation whose highest power on the variable is a 2, then that is a quadratic equation. If the highest power on the variable is 3 and beyond, then it is not a quadratic. It is only a quadratic if the highest power on the variable is a 2. Now there are two main types of quadratic equations. There are two main types of quadratic equations. The first one is a binomial quadratic equation. A binomial quadratic equation is an equation. So this is an equation with only two terms. E.g., we can have an equation, say x squared plus 2x is equal to 0. The terms of the quadratic equation are seen after equating the whole equation to 0. Now that this equation is equal to 0, how many terms do we have? 1, 2, 1, 2. So this is a binomial quadratic equation. It may be like x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. After equating to 0, you count how many terms do you have on the left? 1, 2. So this is a binomial quadratic equation. It may be m squared minus 3m is equal to 2m. Now before concluding that it is a binomial quadratic equation, it must be equal to 0. Now when you bring it this side, we shall have m squared minus 3m minus 2m is equal to 0. These are 1, 2, 3 Can we reduce it further? This is m, this is m, which means we can combine these. It means m squared minus 5m is equal to 0. So this is part A, part B, now part C. This is now a binomial quadratic equation because it has 1, 2 terms. Solving binomial quadratic equations. Part A. If you have x squared minus a4 is equal to 0. Now, if you have an equation of this nature, we have many methods of solving quadratic equations, but now we want to first deal with the factorization method. Yes, we have our equation x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. Now, if it has 1, 2 terms, you first ask yourself, does this thing here possess a square root? If yes, you get its square root and you square it. Now 4 has a square root and it is a 2, which means if I have x squared minus 4, it is as good as having x squared minus 2 squared is equal to 0. Now if you have x squared minus 2 squared is equal to 0, this is a difference of 2 squares, and we can rewrite it as but a squared minus b squared is a minus b, then a plus b. So we can rewrite this guy using this expression. Where there is a, we now have x. Where there is b, we now have a 2, which means it is going to become a, when you compare, a is x, then b is 2. So it will become x minus 2, then x plus 2. So we shall have x minus 2 and x plus 2 is now equal to 0. Now, if you have two brackets which are being multiplied and the answer is 0, we use what we call the zero principle. P2 is equal to 0. If p times 2 is equal to 0, it means either the first number is a 0 or the second number is a 0. Now p is being represented by this and 2 is represented by this. So it means either x minus 2 is 0 and our x is going to be 2, or x plus 2 is 0 and our x is going to be negative 2. So x is equal to 2 or x is equal to negative 2 are going to be our final answers. Part B. It may not necessarily be like that. They can bring it as x squared plus 2x is equal to a 0. Our first step is to examine whether it is a binomial quadratic. It has 1, 2, which means it is a binomial. This is a square. This one is also containing. We have begun with a case when this is a variable which is squared and this is a constant. This is a variable which is squared, but there is another variable here. So what is common here and there? We have x squared, we have x. It means x is common here and here. So you first pull out x. After pulling out x, this one which you have pulled out is the one that you divide with this to get what is remaining here. So x squared divided by x squared divided by x is the same as same base. We keep the base and subtract the powers, so it will be x. This is a plus, you write it. Then the other one is a 2x. What is 2x divided by x? This goes with that and remain with a 2. So plus a 2 is equal to 0, which means either x is a 0 or x plus 2 is a 0 and our x is a negative 2. So we can now conclude that x is 0 or x is equal to negative 2. Those are our final answers. Now after that, we may have a case which is like this. Part C, 1 over x plus 3 is equal to okay, let's not rush into that one because we are still on the binomial ones. We can have m squared minus 3m is equal to m plus 2m, okay, is equal to 4m plus 2m. Now in this case, you first reduce this thing so that it is only a binomial. We have m squared minus 3m. This is m, this is m, so 4 plus 2, that is 6m. When this one crosses, it becomes a negative. So m squared minus 3m minus 6m is a 0, which means m squared minus 9m is equal to 0. Now that it is a binomial quadratic, because it has 1, 2 terms, 1, 2, you ask yourself what is common here and it is also here. That is m. You pull out m. You get this divided by m. So you will have m squared over m, which is m power 2 minus 1, which is m. You have 9m divided by m, which is 9. So this is minus m, not minus m. It is 9m divided by m, which is 9. So minus a 9 is equal to a 0. So we have m into m minus 9 is equal to 0, which means either m is equal to 0 or m minus 9 is equal to 0. And our m minus 9 plus 9 would be 0 plus 9. So our m is going to be 9. So either m is 0 or m is a 9. Now in an exercise, let us try to solve the following quadratic equations. Part A, we have y squared minus 9 is equal to 0. Part B, we have m squared plus 6m is equal to 0. Part C, we have 3m squared plus 27m is equal to 0. Part D, we have 11x squared minus 22x is equal to 1x plus 10x. Part E, we have w squared minus 16 is equal to a 0. Let us deal with those. Then we go to part B, which is to do with a trinomial quadratic. Yes, trinomial quadratic equations. So in our next series, we are going to deal with the trinomial quadratic equations.